Hello, welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Kuroda Mob News. I'm Kuroda, also known as Rob, of course. This is my co-pilot, James, also known as Bacon Mob. Hello, James.
Hello.
Welcome back again. We actually
Great
made
to be
it to
back.
an episode 2. Hey, pretty cool.
We did
Um,
it. We followed through.
I had some
Nice.
personal stuff going on last week, so we didn't do a video last week. But I think I even said in the first video that I wanted to do this on like a weekly or bi-weekly basis, something like that, whatever we could do, right? And there's a bunch of news, like a whole bunch of stuff. So I think we got actually. I assume you would agree with me here. We have a lot more to talk about today than we did last time. So yeah, if you want, we can just get right into it.
Yeah, I would say it's been a pretty eventful. I think it's been 2 weeks since we made a
Yeah,
video
about two
last.
weeks. I post as of the posting of this, it'll be 2 weeks to the day. So I'm trying to get this up every Friday. So actually, I might have posted it on a Saturday. Come to think of it, so we're just shy of 2 weeks. But for those of you who are interested in this program, it's going to be I'm going to try to get it up on Fridays, either weekly or bi-weekly, whatever we can do. So it's going to be something like that. Um, but yeah, I guess I'll just start us off right away with in terms of like the posting of that video of this video. On that note, today is the release date of Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. So um, not gonna have it. I don't plan on getting it right away. But what are your thoughts on this one? What do you like? What do you think about this? Obviously, it's a Wii U port, like another kind of
Yeah, it
one of
is
the last
another
big
Wii U
games,
port.
from the Wii U. Sorry, go ahead.
No worries. Yeah, I mean, like, there's still a few games left to bring over, but this is probably one of the bigger ones that they hadn't brought forward, right? Because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people consider it to be one of the best exclusives that came out on the Wii U.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they definitely seem to have added like a fair amount of content to it. Like there's basically a whole extra game. Like it's not quite a full, you know, 10 or 15 hour experience, but it's at least doing some experimental things with gameplay that looks interesting to me now that the reviews are and I've heard a bit more about it.
Yeah, and you were saying it's almost, and I agree. Just from watching the little footage I've seen of it, it definitely seems more open world than the original game, and it almost looks like um, it even has sort of like the same feel or mechanics as Mario Odyssey.
Yeah, it actually has a manual camera control with the second stick, which they
Mm-hmm.
never had in 3D World. So it's
Yep.
like almost like Odyssey. And they yeah, they have like one seamless world essentially, and there's like a bunch of islands kind of thing. And each island is kind of its own self-contained world.
Mm-hmm. Now, the only thing I've heard is
Um,
that there's some frame rate issues, particularly in the
well,
portable mode. Right? I don't even think it runs at like 30 FPS or something.
yeah, I mean, if you can call it issues, I mean, it's not exactly. It's certainly not unplayable.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think I was like when I first posted about that in your Discord, I may have been jumping the gun a little bit because like it's basically like I was watching a video about it, and he essentially said that like they which in like rare fashion for Nintendo, like in portable mode, it kind of tries to prioritize aesthetic over frame rate, like 'cause it has like some really like a lot of effects going on, like
Mm-hmm.
rain and wind and stuff, and there's like a pretty large draw distance because there's such a huge world. So I guess that's a little more taxing on the Switch than the original 3D World levels are. So there's a little bit of frame dips, but nothing horrible.
It looks really good, and I think it's a game that, we this is something we've discussed a bunch. I don't know if we might have touched on it in the last video. I can't remember if it was the last video or not, but it's like as a Wii U owner, I kind of get somewhat salty with the Wii U ports, but I'm not with this one because I think they've added enough bonus content to make it worth it. And it is really a game that deserves a second life because it was that good. Like it undoubtedly is one of the best games on the Wii U, like real top tier in terms of the exclusives for that system, and it deserves like I mean, certainly more than new Super Mario Bros. U or whatever it was. You know, I think this is way more deserving of a re-release, and it's cool to see it kind of bolstered by this extra content too.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like even if they had just brought the whole game forward and maybe added a character or two, like that wouldn't really have that would have been enough because it was such a good game originally.
Hmm.
But adding like basically an entire new game, I feel like makes it worth it.
Totally, yeah. I think it looks awesome, and it's not a game I'm gonna get right away, but I could see myself down the line getting it, especially if it goes down in price a bit. Because that $60 price tag for me is a bit high, but I think it's worth it for anybody who's never played the game, and especially with the extra content. So it's cool. It's exciting. Hopefully, all you guys are enjoying Super Mario 3D World.
Yeah, I
Um,
would agree that like it's great to see that just coming to a console where more people can enjoy it, right?
Real quick before we move on, I'm just kind of playing with this idea. Are there any other Wii U games now that we have like? I mean, obviously, you know, we have stuff like Mario Maker 2 and Smash Ultimate that are essentially like the really like mega versions of those games. You know, they did Pikmin 3, they did the other Mario game. They've done Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. I mean, they've done a ton of Wii U ports. Is there any other ones that you think are just missing? Like, is there one game that you can think of that you would want?
Um, well, I mean, I'd love to see like Wind Waker HD and HD,
Hmm.
Twilight Princess HD make their way to the Switch. I'm trying to think of what else like hasn't been brought over at this point.
I thought one of two things would be
That's
cool,
probably
and would kind of breathe new life into these two games because I think both of these games are kind of misunderstood, and with just slight tweaking, they could be really good games. The first one is Paper Mario Color Splash. I think if they could give
Mhm.
it at least Origami King's battle system or give it the turn-based, which I doubt that would happen, but I think that was such a good game, but because the battle system was so bad and it couldn't translate to the Switch anyway because it required the gamepad, I think that would have been great. And also Star Fox Zero, from what I played of it, was really
Oh
good,
yeah,
but again, the controls were a big hindrance. So if they could tweak the controls, I feel like that was a pretty solid Star Fox game. So
yeah. Those are two good examples. I'm trying to think if there was another one I had and then just lost. um, Something like Kirby and the Rain. Oh, Kirby's Epic Yarn. Even though that wasn't a Wii U game, I'd love to see them like make an HD version of that and Yoshi's Woolly World as well.
yeah, Yoshi's Woolly World would be like for me is probably the big one that really should come or could should come to the
Yeah,
Switch. It I don't know. That was a great game. One of the best Yoshi games in a long time.
yeah. Even though Crafted World is basically a sequel to that, it's not like it's not the same thing as like something like Splatoon, where it's just kind of like an upgraded version of it. Like
Hmm.
it's a whole new game, right?
Yeah, totally.
So,
And I don't know. I guess this is a good transition. Speaking of remasters, so the entire long rumored and now confirmed Xbox 360 remake of Goldeneye was leaked. This is probably
I know,
like the
right?
thing.
Like,
This is probably like the thing that I'm most excited to talk about because this was just so cool. I think it looks great and it's really I think the best game we never had. You know, I think it looks awesome and I jotted down a few things about it because I was reading extensively about it in preparation for this video. And for those who aren't in the know, so there's essentially a complete beta version of this, essentially the complete game that's floating around right now. It was a small team from Rareware that worked on it. Um, Apparently, originally, it was like they actually because GoldenEye's rights are a bit tricky because you have, apparently like Nintendo owns part of it, Rare owns part of it, and of course you also have like the James Bond thing too. So I don't know who owns that portion of it, but long story short, they did work out they had the rights worked out, so the game was greenlit to be made. And so that small team at Rare worked on it, and when they worked on it, they built the whole game off of the N64's source code, which I thought was pretty interesting. It sounds like they just added a lot of things on top of it because they wanted it to be as close to the original as they could, which I thought was pretty cool. And
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know. What do you think of that? I
as
mean,
far as I can tell, yeah, that's why they didn't change the music and
mhm.
why it didn't have achievements yet. Maybe, or I can't remember. There was something else that like they weren't able to change because it was based on the original source code.
Yeah,
Um, and I think, like you said, it was essentially like Microsoft was under the impression that it had been greenlit by Nintendo, but I guess there was like some lone executive that had yet to like pass off on it, and then once that person was asked about it, they were like, "No fucking way!"
it
And so like the whole thing just like crashed and burned at that point,
makes me wonder if it was
which is
Iwata.
really
Like I don't know. Who
maybe
knows which executive it was, but it's kind of
it
a
was
shame that
originally
one guy
reported
knocked it
that it
down.
was. It was originally reported that it was Hiroshi Yamauchi, which I would totally believe, but he was not the president anymore at that point.
Hmm.
So I don't see how he would have that much sway anymore.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it also ended up being retracted. Um, but the yeah, I mean, this is literally like one of the most requested remakes ever, I would say.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising that Microsoft tried to get this made because it would have sold like crazy if
Oh
it
yeah.
actually came out on Xbox Live Arcade. I wouldn't be surprised if it was the best-selling game on there if it came out.
And they wanted it. I think the only thing that they really wanted to add was like online multiplayer, which I guess they
Mhm.
never were able to do. And apparently the other thing was it went. They said it was like so close to being to going gold, and there was I think they said it was like less than 90 bugs left, which from what I understand is a very small amount to especially that it was so close to going gold. So that's really unfortunate that we almost got
That's
that
what I
game.
saw.
You know.
It does suck. I mean, we basically are able to play it now at least. So
Yeah.
there's that.
Yeah, that's true.
If you have an Xbox 360 emulator on a computer, or if you are able to like homebrew your Xbox, it's totally possible to play it. Which is crazy. All these years later that it got leaked, like I kind of wonder who it was that's been sitting on that for all these years. I wonder if they were just waiting for their non-disclosure agreement to end.
Yeah, that's probably what it was. And I don't doubt that modders are gonna like have their way with that game and just kind of polish it up a little, and that'll be really fun. That's definitely a game I would try. And I mean, I don't know, emulation's bad. You should say that, but in this case, I think it's
Yeah,
even if you're against emulation, I think it's I don't know. I think there's a good case for it to play this game because I don't know about you, but the original GoldenEye was an amazing game. Um, that I don't know. I love playing that on the N64. It was really fun. So uh, I think that
yeah.
would
I
have
mean,
been a
it was
big.
obviously a pioneer.
Sorry.
I was obviously like a pioneer, really, in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
multiplayer and things like that. Um, it was apparently the first game ever to do the like graphic switching thing that Halo um, uh, Anniversary Edition had,
Mm-hmm.
where you can just with the touch of a button switch between the old version and the new version. That was
Um,
kind of cool too. And I mean, yeah,
yeah, I totally agree. I mean, it was a huge game. I mean, totally groundbreaking game, and I think it would have been a big win for Rare when they really needed it too around that time. Because they hadn't
totally, yeah.
that switch to Microsoft wasn't so smooth. I mean, they didn't really have any big like hit games. But I mean, to be fair, they hadn't really the last few with
Yeah,
Nintendo either. But that would have probably been a big win for them when they really needed it. So it's a shame it got the plug got pulled on it. So
yeah, like the Perfect Dark remake ended up coming out, but that didn't have as much fanfare around it as you would think. And it had online multiplayer, but it wasn't great. I don't think it was actually made in house at Rare either, and
apparently
it's not quite
Nintendo
the same.
apparently Nintendo when they originally approved it said that they were okay. I guess they wanted a Wii version of it. So, and then from what I read, it sounded like that there either there isn't a Wii version or they're just
Well, it
there's
wouldn't
just
really have been possible to do.
Yeah.
like because the Wii wasn't capable of those types of graphics.
What they could have done
They
would
would
have
have had
been
to
like a
severely
DS
adjust it.
version, which, you know, that would have worked out really well too, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that their vision of it was doing an HD remake of it. And, like, Nintendo wasn't making an HD console back then, so
Yeah. Yeah, true. Uh, yeah. I guess we'll move on from that. But that was the one that one I was really excited about because I thought that was just it looked so good, and I want to play it. You know.
yeah. I
Um.
watched somebody live stream like the first 2 or 3 levels, maybe 4 levels. And it was impressive. Like
Mhm.
it looked really nice, considering what a small team it was, and that they made it fairly quickly. Like it was quite impressive.
I'm pretty sure from what I remember doing the research for that rare history video that I did, that the team was pretty small that developed the original. It was like a new team um,
Hmm.
that had just been hired on at Rare, and that was like their first project was Goldeneye. Like I'm pretty sure
That's cool.
it was kind of like the same situation. It was a very small team, and it just became this huge game that just kind of eclipsed everything else. Maybe not everything else they did at the time, but it definitely became one of Rare's biggest games. So it's kind of cool that they kind of carried
Yeah.
on with that, and it was another small team.
That game was like the second best-selling N64 game ever, wasn't it?
Pretty sure,
Or
yeah.
was it?
I think it was like that and Mario
It's crazy.
64. So,
It's crazy to think that that's sold better than Ocarina of Time,
oh
if
yeah,
that's
I
true.
know, I know. But I mean, you talk to anybody really about our age who grew up with the N64, it's like GoldenEye. It's like, oh, I remember GoldenEye, of course. You know, everybody played that game. So,
Yeah, everybody.
well, I guess we'll move on. There were two interesting pieces of information about Google Stadia, which was, you know, the first one, which I think, yeah, you actually posted about this. This is kind of like a sort of a signs. I don't know. To me, it's a sign of, you know, sort of the death throes here. Is that they shut down their like in-house studios, and I guess in Los Angeles and Montreal, so they're not making their own. I guess. I mean, I think it still said they're gonna have some exclusive titles from other developers, but they're not gonna be doing it themselves. So that to me doesn't. I mean, Stadia hasn't really caught on as far as I know. Uh,
I don't know what their numbers are if they can release them, but yeah, I mean, it's not a good sign when you're giving up on developing games before you've even released a single game.
exactly.
Uh,
It's like
making games is hard. Like Amazon is having a lot of trouble doing it. Like even like EA when they try to form new studios, sometimes it just doesn't go well. And like they had that whole thing with it was first EA made a studio in um, Los Angeles, I think, or San Diego. They were supposed to make a Star Wars game, and that was a huge flop. Then they had a Vancouver studio that was supposed to do, I think, Battlefront 3 or something related to that. But again, just like the whole thing just kind of fell apart. You've had issues with BioWare lately too, where they just have like issues with making games that are too big in scope and too ambitious. You have feature creep. You have a lack of kind of vision and a lack of direction sometimes for these huge projects, and it doesn't matter how much money you throw at it. Even a company like Google, which is the biggest company that's ever existed, like they still can't do it.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
and like they had talented people there. Like they had Jade Raymond, which is um, she's heavily involved in the Assassin's Creed franchise, and she was like a lead director there. And now she's looking for a job. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. It goes to show you that, like you said, it doesn't matter how much money you throw into everything. And I think that and this also leads into something else we're going to talk about in a minute too. But it definitely says a lot when they throw a lot of weight behind a game, and sometimes it's either too ambitious or it's like too overhyped, and it just never lives up to it. And with Google Stadia, like I remember watching that
Yeah,
initial presentation of them, and like the way that it was presented, it was like, oh, this thing is like the second coming of Christ. This is going to be the big thing that like just, really brings like gaming to, like the whole cloud like platform. It's gonna cloud gaming is gonna be the future and all this stuff. The way they sold it, and now it's like they're not even gonna be able to make their own their own in-house games. So it's like
I heard someone say like Google seemed to think that like just by creating this technology that they would like convince everybody to move over to Stadia, like just because the latency is a little better and because you're not downloading stuff. But like they really had to learn that like when it comes to having a platform for video games, like it's really about the content and the exclusives. Like
totally.
you have to have that reason to move over to something. And they also just weren't really offering value. Like if they wanted to be the Netflix for games, they should have been the Netflix for games. They shouldn't have been making you rebuy stuff.
I think this kind of thing clearly highlights, and it just transitions well to what we're talking about. Another thing we're talking about. We wanted you posted that thing in my Discord, and I really enjoyed reading it. Was the rant that the Ori developer, his name's Thomas Mahler, went on, and it's this exact thing, and I think they tie into each other well. And he was basically like calling out the whole industry, journalists, bigger developers, things like that, for overhyping games and just kind of not delivering on the final product. And I feel like that's exactly what happened with Stadia on a bigger scale. I mean, I think cloud gaming eventually will be the thing. Eventually will be the thing, but we're not there yet. I think people are there's still too many people who are still too many console gamers, and I think people are very uncomfortable with the idea of, at least if you buy a game on Steam or if you download it to a console or whatever, you still own the digital version. When you're just kind of giving like a key to a game that's not even you don't even own it digitally. I think people are also uncomfortable with that too. And then there's just the practical.
Yeah, it's kind of weird knowing that. Oh no, you can finish if you want.
No, I was done. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that it's weird thinking that like somebody could just throw a switch and you would just lose access to everything instantly. Like you don't have anything locally safe whatsoever. I think another thing too is like they just kind of assume that everyone has the internet to be able to handle that, and not everyone has the speeds. A lot of people still have data caps. Like we really need to solve that problem first. Not to mention like there's the issue of like net neutrality in the US, like whether or not this is even going to count towards your data cap or whatever. Like there's a lot of issues that need to be sorted out before people can just be like, I'm streaming everything all the time to every screen they own.
And they're talking about 4K, and they're talking about, I think they even mentioned, it'll soon be 8K you'll be able to stream. It's like, yeah, who? Maybe if you live in like the heart of Los Angeles and you have like fiber optic internet and you're like paying, crazy amounts of money for on your internet bill, but like not like a guy in like Kansas who lives in a small town, is that guy going to be able to run, Doom at 4K or 8K or whatever? Like I don't think so, I mean,
no, it's just unrealistic.
It's way too ambitious, and I agree with I loved that rant maybe I'll even post it in the description so you guys can read it if you haven't. But long story short, that guy from that developed the Ori developer, what did I say his name was? Thomas Mahler or something like that. Anyway, as if I couldn't respect those guys enough, because I love the Ori games so much. I'm still playing Will of the Wisps, and but yeah, he made a lot of really good points about that kind of thing, and he talked about now I don't know the deal with No Man's Sky really well, because there was a couple people that were saying, well, No Man's Sky is a different story because they ended up doing an update and it was better and all this stuff. But I think he made an overall very good point about the industry. I thought of like Death Stranding, for example. It seemed like there was a lot of hype put into that game, and it sounds like I didn't play it, but it sounds like a lot of people really disappointed when it came out. So, I mean,
that was definitely a impressive one, Death Stranding. I've heard I've heard some people who love that game. I've heard some people who hate it. I've heard some people say it's like the most interesting game they've played in years. So like, I still want to try it myself. But No Man's Sky again is like, I think in the case of Sean Murray, he wasn't quite as media savvy as somebody like Peter Molyneux, and like the point still stands that you shouldn't promise stuff you can't deliver if you don't know for sure that you're going to be able to deliver it.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the case of No Man's Sky, they did a pretty good job of like making up for it.
Yeah.
And I don't think Sean Murray meant any ill will or anything. I don't think he was trying to lie to people. I think he was just a little over ambitious and a little too excited during some interviews, maybe. I don't know.
I could see from the that guy Thomas. I could see his perspective too, because obviously Ori, beautiful games. I mean, and the Blind Forest, like I would say, is one of the best platformers I played in many years, and I don't think they had an issue on launch with like putting out a good product. They just made a solid product, and it became like a really good game and quite successful for what it is, you know. And like he was saying that they, you know, they almost got the cover of some big like story or whatever, and they got bumped because of No Man's Sky. And it's like maybe there was he even said it, he's like, you're gonna think it's like sour grapes, but it does suck for people, you know, for developers too who are trying to get their product out there and or maybe getting overshadowed by, you know, these bigger projects.
Yeah, totally. You look at something like Cyberpunk as well. It's like they really just sold us on the idea of what they wanted the game to be.
Mm-hmm.
Sold us on this idea of being able to do whatever you want in this city, go anywhere, and they so obviously did not have that. Like even if they wanted to make that, like you can't just promise that to people before you actually have it, I guess.
Oh, of course not. Yeah,
It makes sense. It seems like so many of these big AAA games though are just being sold on a promise and being sold on an idea. Like they'll literally develop a demo completely independent of making the game itself. Like the demo will be made just to be a demo, but they won't have anything else made for the game. Like, it will just be that one part of the game that's made to show people and be like, this is what we want the game to be like. It's like, I don't know.
I gotta give Nintendo that they don't do that. I kind of respect that about them.
Literally, I don't think they've ever done that.
Yeah, if there's one thing they can usually do well, it's make games, and they've never done stuff like that. Like they've done lots of stuff we'll talk about in a little bit, like that I don't like. Like for example, one guy canceling the whole Goldeneye thing is ridiculous, you know. But
for sure.
But like that's one thing I'll say that they do that they don't do that I like. But yeah, that's just gotta suck, man, for other developers who like, you know, especially indie developers who are really struggling and maybe they put their heart and soul in a game and they just won't get the attention because it's not a big AAA game, you know. So.
Yeah, and actually, speaking of indie developers, there was another thing with Google Stadia where one of the developers of Terraria was locked out of his Google account for weeks on end, and literally was just like, screw this, like I'm not going to make Terraria on Stadia anymore.
I was going to backtrack to that, so we transitioned well to it. Yeah, I was reading that, and like the tweets, my god, that was so hilarious. It's like, well, there's another little blow to your Stadia, freaking Google. And that's the other thing, people aren't going to, I don't think people are too upset that Google is like failing Google, in the gaming in the gaming department because I don't know, just they got their hands in enough stuff, you know.
Exactly.
But that was funny. Those tweets were really funny to read. My god.
It's so ridiculous how much you can lose if you get locked out of your Google account, like if you rely on them too much.
Yeah, it's true. And I think it was his YouTube account, and they got a it wasn't a copyright claim. Why can't I think of it?
I don't even know what it was. I don't think
it was something. It was something like that. Yeah, and he couldn't post anything. And he's like, "I've been trying to deal with you people for like 3 weeks, and nothing's happened. Screw it, you're not getting Terraria." That was so good. Oh, that was a little funny one. So, we got a couple things we'll just breeze through here, and then I think actually we should be able to get through the rest of this pretty quickly. So, a couple of little announcements. Crash 4 is coming to Switch. Kind of not surprised by that one. It's cool.
Yeah, it was kind of.
Go ahead.
Long time coming.
Yeah, I'm not
Go ahead.
surprised. I'd like to get the trilogy, and I'd like to get the Spyro trilogy myself. I haven't played either of them, and I don't know. I think Crash. Um, I think that fits really well for the Switch. You know, so I could see myself playing that.
It's coming to the PC as well, and the new Xbox and PlayStation as well.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna. I think I've actually saw what I saw of it was for the PS5. So and it looked
Mhm.
awesome. So you know, definitely have to try that game out. A lot of people are also footnote here. A lot of people are now speculating. Of course, is Crash Bandicoot the next Smash character? So I'll leave that
I was
there.
literally just thinking that.
Yeah, I'll leave that there. Maybe he is, maybe he isn't. But I mean, I'd be down for him in Smash. You know, the
Totally,
print
I'd be down for Smash and Crash.
uh,
Sorry. Go ahead.
Smash Crash. That'd be pretty funny. Mass Effect Remaster is going to be released on the May 21st, and Ratchet and Clank Rift is coming out June 11th. Those we saw those a little bit. Never played Ratchet and
Yeah.
Clank. Also never played. No, actually that's not true. I played tiny bit of Mass Effect, but I don't. I'd like to play through that game, so I think that might be one I grab on Steam when
Yeah,
I
I've
when I
been
can.
meaning to. Well, you'd have to get it on Origin. You can't get
Oh,
it on
really? You
Steam
can't get
because
on
it's EA.
Steam? No? Shit.
I
Never
don't,
mind
well,
then.
it's some EA games you can. I don't know whether weird about some games, but yeah, that's a trilogy I've been meaning to play through for a very long time. I played a little bit of the first and second games, but not
Hmm.
a ton. Um, and people seem genuinely excited about them, and they like apparently are good remasters. Like they actually went in and upgraded quite a bit. There was some talk about how like there's a lot of like gratuitous butt shots in the original that were removed because there was like over sexualized female characters because this was the mid 2000s. So
Oh
like
man, come
they
on.
went back and kind
Never
of like
mind. I wanted to play. I'm gonna go play the original now.
I'm gonna play the original. Yeah, exactly. You can still buy the original, so it's fine.
Oh, that sucks. It's not on
But
Steam. I'm not. I'm
yeah,
sorry. I'm not gonna get it if it's not on Steam. Then maybe they'll. I doubt they'll release it on Switch. But um,
I actually yeah I have the first two on Origin, and I've been meaning to play them for a very long time, but I never got around to it. And now there's a remaster out, so it's hard to justify
I'd at
playing
least
the
like
old
to
version.
play through the first one because that's one of those games that I heard a lot about back in the day. Played like a tiny bit of it. Never got it for my
Yeah,
360 for some reason. Um, and I gotta play it. So
I rented it. I rented both of the first two, but like the second one is supposed to be the best from like what critics said. It kind of just like had the best story, the best decisions, the best combat.
mhm.
Um, three apparently kind of refined the combat, but wasn't as good story wise.
Yeah. I don't know. I'll have to play the first one and maybe try the other two. Maybe I'll try to get the remaster if there's a way if it's released on a platform that I actually have. But yeah, I'm fine waiting for it. And those butt shots, I think I'm gonna have to play the original instead. You know, in case I miss out on that.
Those five shots. Yeah,
So also the Prince of Persia remake was delayed. I saw people complaining about
yeah.
this on like I was just looking at it and I read their little statement on Twitter, and people of course going, oh, of course it's delayed. You shouldn't have said this, blah blah blah. And it's like again, I go back to that freaking Miyamoto quote, man. You know, it's like delayed game is
Yeah,
better than you know. I can never get that
yeah. A
quote right.
delayed game is bad forever. A good game is eventually. A
So
delayed game is eventually good. A good game is
We're
good.
2 for 2 on the episodes where you've quoted that, so now that's got to be a thing. So at some point, you got to
We're
quote
two for
that.
two for messing up that quote.
Yeah, I've got to mess it up, and then you have to say the right thing. Uh,
Well, I
uh,
messed it up the first time,
and
but
also,
yeah, it's
apparently, I
definitely
mean,
true.
and also because of COVID, apparently
Um,
is the big reason why they had to kitty cat cameo. My kitty cat made a cameo
sorry.
too. But no, apparently because of COVID too, which is totally understandable. I mean, there's gonna be games that are delayed. People like, I'm sorry, it's you might not
Not
like
only
the
that,
fact that
but
you're
apparently
Go ahead.
um, Sorry, there's a bit of a delay, but yeah, apparently people didn't like how the game looked. Like when they showed off the first trailer, they were like, "What is this? An Xbox 360 game?"
Mm-hmm.
So they like went back to the drawing board and they're like, "Okay, we'll try and make it look a little better so we can like temper people's expectations or like meet people's expectations."
Mm-hmm.
And now people are mad that they're delaying. Like you can't win apparently.
So the kind of stuff like what that Ori developer was ranting about when we were talking about Stadia, that stuff I understand why people get riled up about. But the problem is that people seem to get fired up on social media about this kind of stuff, and it's like you realize that like making a game is not like it's not like baking cookies. It takes a long time, man. There's a lot of elements to making a game, and a lot of times things have to be redone. Things don't turn out as they originally planned. Like you can't like again, you're better off delaying the game and having a better product out than not, you know what I mean? And then rushing it out because everybody's pressuring you to release the game and then it turns out shitty and you have to do, 10 updates to get it right, I mean, so I don't know why people on social media got to blow it up, I don't know.
Well, that's what they do.
Yeah, it's like everything's a crusade. But yeah, anyway, so I don't know. I think from what I saw of that looked good. I don't really have much history with the Prince of Persia games. I remember I tried playing one on the Super NES, I think.
That was probably the port of the original Prince of Persia.
Yeah, and it was alright.
This was kind of like a reboot before reboots were cool, actually. Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time was made, I believe, in Montreal. I think it was one of Ubisoft Montreal's first games, actually. And they kind of just took like the idea of the original Prince of Persia of like having this palace full of traps and platforming, and they kind of like ran with it and made it into like an interesting 3D platformer. I would honestly argue that that game was just as influential as something like Resident Evil 4, Gears of War, Ocarina of Time. Like it literally set the standard for things like wall running, for like acrobatics, like the animation in that game, and like the rewinding time mechanic, like all that stuff was so innovative for the year that game came out.
Was that one on the GameCube?
Amazing. It was, yeah, it was PS2, Xbox, and GameCube.
In GameCube,
was,
yeah,
like, multi-platform.
Maybe that's what you're making me now. Cause I never really dipped my toes in that series. I think Dave's got that. I should borrow that from him for GameCube.
It's
check out that game.
Literally like one of the best games I've ever played. Like it's a 10 out of 10 for me.
I'm actually kind of surprised. I didn't realize that game was so good. I've heard a few things, but that was always a series that kind of fell under the radar for me. So
I never played the later ones as much, but that one, like I borrowed my friend's Xbox in high school and played all the way through that game. And that was kind of one of the games that made me realize like, oh, like there are other really great developers out there other than Nintendo and Squaresoft. Like maybe I should check some of this stuff out.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Cool. Maybe that's a game they should remake then, probably. Maybe they will if this one does.
Yeah, like that team went on to make Assassin's Creed, so they kind of ended up focusing so heavily on that. There hasn't been many Prince of Persia games since the 360 days.
Yeah, fair enough. But long story short, people, be patient. Game will be released. Like, come on, give the developers a freaking break. Last two items, they're game related, but well, sorta. But I thought this one, complaining about Nintendo a little bit again because that seems to be a theme lately. So that rumored Zelda Netflix series was actually a thing. It was an action show. I don't know if it was in development. I don't think they filmed anything or whatever. But apparently Nintendo pulled the plug on it because of the leaks. They freaked out so badly that they pulled the plug on the whole thing. It's like, what kind of reaction is that?
That's pretty ridiculous in hindsight. I remember hearing about it, and
same.
I remember like a month or so later when nothing came of it, I just assumed that it was a rumor and that it never actually happened. But I still remember getting excited about it when I heard about it, and it's just so crazy to think that it's like it almost happened.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't understand why leaking would be grounds to like stop making it completely. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, that's one of those weird things that Nintendo does. Like yeah, they won't do like shady stuff like making literally just making a demo to show off a game, but then they'll pull the plug on a whole project just because it was leaked. Like, come on, stuff gets leaked all the time. You know, I don't. Seems like an
It's
extreme
funny, like when we
reaction.
were talking about that earlier, I was thinking back to like why Nintendo doesn't do that anymore. It's probably because when they used to show like pre-alpha footage of games, it would show stuff like Link getting the Triforce in Ocarina of Time, which would create like years and years of rumors and
Yeah.
like people calling them, asking them how to get it. So I guess because of still that might be why Nintendo doesn't show off unfinished games.
Yeah, maybe. Fair enough. Yeah, I don't know. A Zelda live action show. I don't know. I think 3D said something. So, pardon me if I misquote you here, 3D. But I thought you said something in just the Discord about how you would prefer an animated series to like a
Yeah,
live action
I think
thing.
I would.
And I would say, and my response to that is that there's already been an animated series, and I think that I would be willing to give the live action one a shot.
I mean, I think he means more like an anime
No,
or
I know,
something
I
like that.
know.
Like if they adapted the manga into an anime, that would be pretty cool.
That'd be cool, yeah. Or really, they should, even if they did it in the same graphic style as the games. Honestly, like why mess with the formula? You
Yeah,
know,
even just have like a through like a CG animated thing. Like why not?
it would also be tough because I
That'd
don't
be cool.
think Link should talk. You know.
It would, yeah, it would be hard to. I don't think it'd be impossible to have him never talk. Especially if it was episodic instead of a movie. I could see that kind of working.
Mhm.
I don't know.
Kirby
I mean,
never
the
talked in
Mandalorian
the
doesn't
Kirby
talk much.
cartoon though.
Yeah, Kirby never talked. I mean, he said Poyo.
Yeah,
That's about it.
yeah. So I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on the Zelda thing. I don't like. It'd be cool to see a show. Of course, if they released one, I'd watch it. But I wouldn't. Um, I don't know. Maybe a movie. I don't know. I don't know. I think we need to see how this Mario movie turns out before we, you know.
Yeah.
Honestly, it'd be cool to see
Speaking of,
Majora's Mask as a series, and that's not even my favorite Zelda. It's just so dark and
that one it has a lot of good characters and story too.
yeah.
But yeah, it's really hard to think of how they would do the whole silent protagonist thing.
I feel like Metroid would, and it's not because I love Metroid. It is because I love
Mhm.
Metroid so much. But I also just feel like that's just a sci-fi movie. It's easy, you know. I mean, you
Yeah.
basically have the template in Alien and just make that, but Metroid. But where it could be different is the whole movie could just be kind of that isolated. Like Samus is really the only main character. Her just kind of going in and doing her thing. Like that. That could be a cool movie.
I was gonna say like it's kind of cheating and it's a little corny, but they could just make like mute.
Yeah.
Like that would work, right?
Yeah. Fair enough.
Like just have him have some like accident as a child that makes him mute.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right. Well, I think this is the last thing, and we'll wrap it up, man. The other thing was they gave a very brief trailer. Didn't show any footage. I don't know if you saw it, of Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which is the second Sonic movie, and I'm going to read you the description
Mhm.
off of
Okay.
the little YouTube video of it. Because all it did was show the logo Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and it had the Emerald Hill Zone music playing, which was awesome, by the way. And this is what it said: groundbreaking, thought-provoking, extremely obvious, as far as like referencing the title, because it's just called Sonic the Hedgehog 2. I thought it was good. I don't know. I thought it was funny.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean we were just talking about Sonic 2. Um I was just thinking about that actually because when we were talking about them making the Mario movie, because I was wondering if that's going to overtake Sonic as the highest grossing video game movie.
That seems like, if it's done well, that seems likely, yeah, to me. I would think. But and the Sonic movie was good. I liked it. I took my niece, my nephew, and my youngest brother to see it, and we all loved it. It was funny. It was a good movie. It wasn't perfect, but it was way better than the Abomination it could have been. So, um,
Yeah, I still need to watch it actually.
and I wonder since it's Sonic 2 if we're gonna like, I mean, I don't know if you saw the movie, and I don't want to spoil anything, but um, okay, you didn't see it. Well, then I won't spoil it. But all I'll say is, I wonder if we're gonna just see more of the Sonic universe because, long story short, it was kind of like Sonic in the real world. So I wonder if we're gonna see like actual like Green Hill Zone and all those kind of areas. Um, it'd be awesome to see a live action version of Chemical Plant because that was such an iconic stage and the music is so iconic from Sonic 2. That would be really cool to see. It'd be really cool to see that in the movie.
That was kind of always my favorite stage in that. Well, maybe not my favorite stage, but it's like the stage I have the most nostalgia for because like I
Yeah.
remember playing it as a kid and I like the music a lot.
Yeah, that would be awesome to see. And I hope Jim Carrey's returning as Eggman because he was excellent. Or Robotnik. He was actually Robotnik in that. So they didn't call him
Yeah,
Eggman. So for us old school people, it's friggin' Robotnik. It's not Eggman. Yes, I know they're technically two different people, but it's still Robotnik.
exactly.
But yeah,
It seems like he did a good job.
he did a great job. He was really funny. And if they get him back and, um, I think they could potentially, they opened the door for a lot of things in that movie. So I'm excited. I look forward to the trailer whenever they release a trailer, and it's going to be out next year. So I think like early next year.
Yeah, I'll have to watch the first one by the time it comes out. I'm sure I will.
Yeah, I think you'll
But
like it.
like, it would, it would be really cool to see them like bring locations and characters from the games into it. And like, I'm glad it was so successful because it's nice to see that people still have that love for Sega, right?
Yeah, I'd like to see Sega. I mean, the Atari what is it, VCS got released, and it'd be cool to see Sega do not a new console, but like they did the Sega Genesis Mini, which I really loved. I'd love to see like a Dreamcast Mini. I'd
That'd be really cool.
even a Saturn Mini would be really cool. Um,
Yeah, ECS is cool in that you can like run Linux on it and treat it like a PC.
mhm,
And the Dreamcast actually had that too. Like you could run like a version of Windows on the Dreamcast.
mhm.
So it'd be awesome if they like made a new Dreamcast that like ran those discs, but you could also like use it as a gaming PC or something. I don't know.
That'd
Because
be
I
cool.
think that was the console that had a modem in it as well.
That would be honestly really cool. So, but yeah, Sonic the
Yeah.
Hedgehog 2. And that's all the news that we had to talk about. I'm sure there was more we missed, but we covered a lot. So, I don't know. I guess once again, thanks, James, for joining me. Again, we'll probably check. We're going to try for next week, if not the week after. Like I said, weekly or bi weekly, depending on what we can do. Um, did you have any other final thoughts? Anything else you wanted to say?
Um, I I feel like no, I'm just happy that we were able to make another episode. It's been a lot of fun, and it's been nice catching up on the news with you.
Me too. I'm ready for some like big I'm waiting for the big news, But the
Yeah, I
Goldeneye
can't wait
thing,
to like.
the Goldeneye thing was really cool. I love that.
That was fun to talk about. That was definitely some cool big news. Um, and yeah, I've got a bit better set this week. Sorry for the background noise if there was any,
No worries.
um, but yeah, I mean, I can't wait to like cover some big event like you know the online only E3 that's going to be happening or some other thing like a Nintendo Direct or something.
Maybe we'll do a like live stream discussion on that. Um,
Yeah, I'd love to.
and we could just kind of discuss things in real time. I think I should be able to. We're gonna test that out, but I think I should be able to stream both the footage and us talking. So hopefully that could work out. I would love to do that, but I'm sure if a Nintendo Direct drops or if like a State of Play drops or something like that, we could try to jump on. I'd also, and I think I proposed this to you in the first video, on slow news weeks, or even if it's been a couple weeks with slow news, I'd also like to just kind of do extended discussions as well, which we'll talk off camera, but I have a few different ideas for. So, um, that would be a nice way to
Yeah.
fill in the gaps, you know.
Mm-hmm. But yes, this has been good. I look forward to more.
Me too. Thank you guys for watching. We'll catch you in like a week or two. And you want to take us out, James? I don't know. We don't have an outro yet.
I guess this is gonna be the new tradition. Peace out, everybody.
Peace, guys. See you later.